We've got 2 minutes until we begin. Welcome to Taraweeh Truffles. We will get started in 2 minutes. Salams, where you're from. Salaman, where you're from. And we'll get started in 2 minutes. Salams and where you're from. Lubna, alaikum assalam. Himu, alaikum assalam. Zahra, alaikum assalam. Lubna in Toronto, alaikum assalam. Lulu, Perth, alaikum assalam. Norin in Bangladesh, Faziha, alaikum assalam. Hope you're doing well, Faziha. Abdul Basit in Kuala Lumpur or Malaysia somewhere. Doing good. Suraya is in London, wa alaikum assalam. Somebody from Frankfurt, wa alaikum assalam. Zinat Hassan, wa alaikum assalam. Al-Maida. Alaikum assalam. Fartun. Somebody from Montreal. Don't know where because can't see. We'll get started in 1 minute. Amna Javed, wa alaikum assalam. Salahuddin in Blackburn, England. Alaikum assalam. Marwa Safa. Alaikum assalam. Abu Abdullah in Leeds. Berivin, where you been, Berivin? Alaikum assalam. Tyrelius Zacharias. Alaikum assalam. From Periscope, welcome. Shibul and Elvira, alaikum assalam. Sophia in London, and it's 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. We've hit the top of the hour. Let's get started. Take one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala amma ba'd. Welcome to today's episode of Taraweeh Truffles. Today is day number 17 of Ramadan. We're taking on the verse in Surah Al-Anbiya, which is verse 88, 89, or it might be like 87, 88. I'm not quite sure. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in these verses, it's the story of Yunus alayhi salam swallowed by the whale and the dua that he made. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَا النُّونِ إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا فَظَنَّ أَن لن نقدر عليه فنادى في الظلمات أن لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَا النُّونِ. The noon is the fish or the whale, and the noon is the person of the whale. So Yunus alayhi salam. وَذَا النُّونِ, when he went out, إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا, he left in a state of enragement. So he was enraged and he was angry. فَظَنَّ أَن لَن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ, and so he thought that we would not cause him any distress during that journey. فَظَنَّ, he thought, أَن لَن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ, we'll talk about what that means. فَنَادَى, so he called out فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ, when the whale swallowed him in the darknesses, أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ, that there's no God except you, O Allah, subhanak, glory be to you, إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ, I was one surely of those who wronged themselves. فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted from him, وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ, and we saved him, we delivered him, وَكَذَلِكَ نَنْجِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and in the same way do we always deliver the believers. So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let's start off by saying the noon. The noon is the name of Yunus alayhi salam, which is actually interesting. Here in the surah, in this ayah, it doesn't say that Yunus was swallowed by the whale or swallowed by this large sea animal. You see that simply in his name, the Noon, the prophet of the whale, the one of the whale. وَذَنُّونِ إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا. I've heard this talk, this is like a side point about, whales, they can't swallow a human being, they have a gag reflex and stuff, they don't eat humans, and so on and so forth. What's interesting is that this whale actually refluxed Yunus AS out. That's how he was saved. So it still could be a whale for the naysayers. It's whoever who has a naysaying. I've heard this from like Christians how does people have problems with their own Christianity issues? Anyways, so Yunus AS, in other verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that that he left mulim, like he did something wrong. So there's talk in the tafsir about what was it that Yunus AS did. Allah doesn't go into detail of what happened, but some people say that Yunus AS' people, the punishment came to them. Yunus wasn't given permission to leave. The punishment came on the people of Yunus, but it didn't destroy them. And they repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them, and Yunus AS came back to them, and they actually became believers afterwards. So many lessons there. I won't go into that, but just so you say not to lose hope in people, even if the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming down on them, they repented, and Yunus AS went back to them, as the Quran says. So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions فَظَنَّ, and he thought أَن لَن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ. They thought, and there's different translations, but qudra is like an Arab who reads this might immediately think that Yunus thought that Allah had no power over him. A'udhu billah. No prophet would ever think that. No prophet would ever think that Allah doesn't have power over them. The qudra here, it means to constrict. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in one verse in the Quran says about his rizq and his provisions, and how يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ. He spreads out and expands his rizq for whoever he wishes, وَيَقْدِرُ, and he compresses it. And so here this thing that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says فَظَنَّ أَن لَن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ. So Yunus AS was in a place where he felt constricted. He felt constricted with his people, so he left, seeking expanse. And he went out to the sea, he tried to escape, and yet even in his escape of expanse, if it wasn't, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he became constricted again. They were lost at sea, they drew lots, Yunus's lot came out the less one, they threw him from the boat, and then this whale swallows Yunus alayhi salam up. So the constrictedness again. And then he calls upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside the belly of this large sea animal, and says, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves him back to expansiveness. And so all this expansiveness, everything that we seek out, we want our chest to be expanded, we want relaxation, we want happiness in our life, goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In these verses as well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. He called away in the darknesses. And it's an interesting note here that nowhere does darkness come up in the Quran except that it is in the plural. Dhulumat. You never see in the Quran the word dhulma. Dhulma, singular. Only nur comes singular. Nur is one. It's the nur from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But dhulumat is many. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Yunus alayhi salam, فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. And so he called out in the darknesses. And here we got three darknesses. You've got the darkness of the night. He's out at sea and there's no light. Then you've got the darkness of the sea itself, the darkness there. And you've got, he's inside the whale. And I'm thinking even today, with all the technology and everything, if somebody is lost at sea and swallowed by a whale, there is no technology that can find this person and save him. That's today. Now, what about at Yunus alayhi salam's time? He is by himself, and he's only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only that, but he's in depression and sadness. He has no water. He has no food. He has no friend to console him. He is all by himself. فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ أَلَّا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ. There's no God worthy of worship. There's no one and nothing I can worship except you, O Allah. You're the only one who can be worshipped and is deserving of worship. إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ. Subhanak means that when you say glory be to God, it means that Allah has nothing to do or is so far away from imperfection, is so far away from any fault, is so far away from any damaged goods, as you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is subhana, glory be to you. That everything that anybody attributes that is imperfect in any way has nothing to do with you. Oh Allah, subhanak, inni kuntu min al-zalimin. And this is also, as we saw, when somebody is coming forward to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's been my experience as we've been teaching Visionary for the past 10 days or so, that people have weaknesses. And you hear something like somebody saying, I don't feel I deserve to make dua to Allah because I'm a sinner. I don't feel because I have these sins. Now look at what Yunus AS is saying. He's saying, oh Allah, I am from the Zalimin. He didn't say that he actually identified himself as being from the Zalimin, which is a very intense turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and coming closer by humbling himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for those people who feel I can't make dua because I've committed sins, use the humility to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Says, Ya Allah, I committed sins, inni kuntu min al-zalimin, but I'm turning back to you, O Allah, and I say with the dua of Yunus, La ilaha illa anta subhanak inni kuntu min al-zalimin. The Prophet ﷺ said that this dua, that there's no believer that calls upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this dua except that Allah will answer them. There's nobody that calls upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this dua, which is like a tasbih of Yunus alayhi salam, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sure will answer them and will save them from the darkness that they're in. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the end verse, فَنَجَّيْنَاهُ, and so we saved him. فَاسْتَجَبْنَا, Allah answered his dua, وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ, and we saved him min al-gham, from this the distress and the grief that he was in. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises, and you'll see this in the translation as well, and likewise we will always deliver the believers. وَكَذَلِكَ, and in the same way will we always save the believers, and in the same way will we always save the believers. Jazakumullah khairan. I have class in like 20 minutes. We're teaching Visionary. It's our final day, inshallah ta'ala, so I apologize. I won't take any questions right now. I have to stop because get ready for class, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khairan. We will be back to our regular time for Tarawih travels tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka.